Hey y'all, it's the perpetual student here, and this is going to be class 3, part 2. So in the first part, we were talking about the Bobo doll study and how we can apply it to the practice of beating your kids. And we were just talking about how it's probably not the best and most effective way of disciplining your child, right? And we were looking at how it can affect the development. Is it instilling aggression in the children? Is it instilling these ideas, these functionalities into your child, whether you believe it or not? So, to believe that the child is going to process the violent act of beating into something profound and idealistic and more mental than physical, it's not going to work. It's not going to happen. And it's very, very, very much reminiscent of the plantation. And your response to your anger is going to be aggression, just like the slave master against the slave. So for you to say that, oh, you're beating your kid out of love, but that sort of alchemy, which that's what that is. You're trying to create something new from something which is not there. And even in alchemy, there's a lot of rules that dictate what will come from what you've given. So um, it's not going to work. All right. It is you're showing the child that the answer to your anger is something physical. And this is just not sustainable. It doesn't provide long-term um, behavioral change in the child. Even in adults, punishment or punishment-driven change is not sustainable. It doesn't last long. All right, so all this time I've been talking about why you shouldn't beat your kids, right? So I think it's time to now talk about what are the possible alternatives? What can we do instead of beating our children, right? When they do something wrong, according to you, all right? And I think probably one of the first things that's going to come and has to be a part of parenting, especially as a black parent, we've got to understand the things that were done wrong to us as a child, right? We have to evaluate the things that we felt, right? That we perceived. We have to look at it and be honest. What do you think worked in your childhood and what do you think didn't? Now, this is very nuanced, right? And it's going to be different for everyone, all right? But I'm pretty sure that across the board, beating was not a healthy part of your upbringing, okay? It put fear. It makes you scared and fearful of your parent. Now, some people say, "Oh well, you know what? They gotta fear me." Oh, fear equals respect. Respect equals fear. Come on now. 2 plus 1. Not no. It's not 4. Nope. So, is that what we're really saying? Let's just be honest. Do we want our children to be afraid of us? Respect definitely has to be there because as the parent, as the adult, you're going to have the experience, hopefully, it's not always the case, but hopefully you're going to have the experience to guide that child in the right way. So there has to be respect because without that respect, they're not going to listen to or adhere to the guidance that you're going to provide, right? That you should provide as a parent, right? But that respect doesn't have to be fear-based, okay? When you're at work How many of us fear our boss? You fear getting fired, but are you really afraid of the boss? So what do you do if you fear being fired, right? And there are certain tasks that you must complete in order to make sure that you're not fired. Or there's certain things that you can't do that will get you fired. What do you do? Because nobody is perfect, right? Um, so what do? You try to hide your mistakes, isn't that right? Don't people often, we've all had a situation where another a coworker has tried to shift blame onto you. Hasn't that happened? That's fear-based. Doesn't sound healthy to me. There's no ownership of the mistake that that person made. So what's going to happen? They're going to repeat it. They're going to repeat that mistake because motivation coming from fear doesn't allow you to reflect on and take ownership, or I should say it in the reverse. It doesn't allow you to take ownership and reflect on what you've done wrong, because motivation through fear makes you hide, makes you, you know, like a ferret or a mouse. You become mouse-like. So is that really the effective method that we want when they go out into the world? When they are competing with others, do we really want them to fear authority? Do we want them to hide their mistakes? Do we want them to shirk responsibility and not take ownership of the mistakes they've made? They need to acknowledge and accept the mistakes they have made and use them to grow. But if they're afraid of coming to you, if they're afraid of accepting ownership of the mistakes they've made and taking that punishment, they're never going to grow. They're never going to be ready to compete in the world that's out there. So, okay, I'm digressing, but no, I will digress because we'll get back to what do you do? Raising children, there's no right answer. There's no correct thing. That Bobo doll study is not the end all be all, right? Because of course it wasn't 100% of the children who saw the Bobo doll being attacked that did mirror that. But the numbers indicate that the majority of the children will do that, right? Violence will be their go-to. And again, it doesn't mean that you're going to go and beat up your spouse or beat up kids on the school grounds or whatever. It just means that you're not teaching your child an effective method of recognizing, accepting, reflecting, and processing their feelings in a healthy and productive manner. The most beneficial thing is gonna be being consistent. Hey, and remember, never stop learning. See y'all. Peace.